Good evening and welcome to the Action Popcast. My name's Nick APD and to the side of me we've got Kim Gonick. Kim, how are you this evening?
Oh, not too bad, not too bad. Saturday night and all. Just sitting on the stream. How are you?
Yeah, I'm good, man. It's been a little while since we've done this, so you feeling rusty? Are you feeling ready? You sort of hyped for it? Ready to rock and roll? Ready to go? Ready to reminisce?
It just feels like ages since we've done one, really. I feel a bit like need to get back into it a bit.
Yeah, it has been a little while, and there is something very different about it this evening to normal. I don't know if anyone's noticed, but we are live. This isn't pre-recorded. This means that I absolutely will make mistakes. I will bring up the wrong slides. I'll probably swear at some point when I shouldn't swear. I'll probably disappoint Kim in several ways. But tonight, what we would probably encourage is, because this is normally pre-recorded and we do a premiere and everyone chats in before, get involved with the discussion. If you've got anything to say about the subject in hand, please do share your thoughts, share your memories, because we'd love to bring them up. And we want to interact with the comment section tonight, don't we? So are you excited to have the audience steering the ship a little bit tonight, Kim?
I'm excited to hear people's memories of the things we're going to talk about, because I feel like we're all in the same age group that we will have experienced it in one way or another.
Yeah, I think that there are a lot of us close in age, and it's something I think we were all aware of it because, you know, it's no secret. The subject tonight is MySpace, and MySpace was the first big social media platform before all this Facebook stuff. So it will be interesting to hear things. I notice you've got a little bit of a fringe going on tonight, Kim, like just down the side of the face. Is that in reference to your old emo days?
No, if I was going to do that, it would need to be like straight across the face.
Oh,
and like a whole tin of hairspray.
Were you you were one of the straight cut fringe girls, not the just across their face girls with it. Do you know what I mean?
No, I would no. No,
okay.
I wasn't that type. It used to be like straight across and down to the side, but held by like a whole can of hairspray.
So before we get into the subject, there's something that we can actually do this evening, which we can't do normally with the pre-recorded show. Should we have a little flick through the comment section and see who's in and who's joined us for this evening?
Yeah.
Say a few little hellos. Right, so who have we got in this evening? We have TJC. So hello, Terry. Good to see you, mate. Always good to see you in the chat. We have Mr. B. Hello, Mr. B. He says, hey there, Nick. I'm sure he's saying hey there to you as well, Kim. We have Jojo. I know her as Jojo the Snowcat. She says hello to everyone. Oh, Mr. B coming in there with hi, Kim. So he didn't forget you.
Special shout out, obviously.
Special shout out, yeah, 100%. Mr. B's repping for you there. Let's have a little scroll down there. We have got some who's this? Monkey Boys Toys. Do you know that person?
No, like
he seems familiar. Something's springing in my head. It's like there's this other life I lead. Like it's like I live a different life and I perhaps know someone. But yeah. Oh, I know maybe. He is. Yeah, it's Monkey Boy. We have Cat Vader's Girl. Hello, Cat. Thank you for showing up this evening. We have Collecting with Cool. Hello, thanks for coming along and checking out the stream. We've got Travels with Jason. See if we've got anyone else in. There's someone I want to say a little hello to in a moment. Some of you may be able to guess that is. We've got Chris Miwa from the amazing Chasing 80s Toys in. And Gerard O'Connor. So hello, Gerard. He says, a very good evening, you maniacs. Well, it was the era of MySpace and there were many maniacs, if I do recall. But I think to not bring down the way we do stuff on the Action Popcast, we also have Emma C in. So hello to Emma C. Hope you're doing well this evening. I'm sure that she will love. If you're listening to this on Spotify or your preferred podcast platform, I would encourage you to come to the Action Popcast channel on on YouTube, and check this out either live sometime or any of our videos, so you can actually see our faces and the slides we bring up. But what I did, I'm going to bring it up again. I just thought I'd do a special emo shout out to Emma C, because, you know, I managed to track down her old MySpace profile picture. And Kim, could you just bring that comment up again? I believe I just got insulted then. She's misspelt my name. She's put Dick instead of Nick. It's got to be an autocorrect, surely.
To be fair, I feel that's quite calm, and that's quite polite for Emma. Really, you could have got worse.
Could have been 100%, but no, I just thought we've got to keep with the theme of MySpace and emo and what have you. So I thought, why not show Emma? And I mean, it's a good picture, right? She had it all going on. She had the fringe, she had the side profile, the bedroom in shot with the slightly darkened light, and this, as we're going to find out this evening, this was a thing. The whole emo movement was a very big thing on MySpace. So, as I've already said, tonight's subject is MySpace. So, Kim, should we start actually chatting about the subject in question and try and actually attempt to do something that resembles a podcast? Because I think being live, I'm like an excited school kid, and I just want to chat to all my friends, but I've got to actually do what I'm here to do.
Yeah, I think we maybe should, considering we said we were going to talk about it, so maybe we should start talking about it.
100%. So yeah, this evening we're just taking a little walk down memory lane and having a little look back to MySpace. Who here in the comments section remembers MySpace? I'm sure you all do. Now, MySpace came out in can you believe, Kim? 2003 was when MySpace came out. 21 years ago. How does that make you feel? How does that make you feel?
Probably not as bad as you.
Hey, I'm only 5 years older than you. Don't give it all that.
But it doesn't make me feel. It makes me feel old, but I have to admit, like I'm feeling the nostalgia now that I'm getting a bit older, because it was a time of enjoyment and not quite the same as what social media is today. It was a bit more fun, I think, back then.
I think MySpace was definitely a more fun time than Facebook. Kat Vader's girl here has loved MySpace. Sorry, I've got Facebook on the brain. But we're all conditioned now to say Facebook. It's Facebook, Facebook. But believe it or not, there was a time when MySpace was it was the number one social networking platform. It was inspired by a site called Friendster, and believe it or not, who remembers their first friend Tom? Do you remember when you signed up to your MySpace profile, Kim, and your very first friend was Tom?
I think everybody's first friend was Tom. Could you even get rid of Tom?
You could get rid of Tom.
Oh, could you get rid of Tom?
It did actually say in his blurb that you didn't have to remain friends with Tom, but his name was actually Tom Anderson, and he had a partner called Krista Wolf. And believe it or not, they were inspired by sites like Friendster, and they built MySpace. I believe it only took them approximately 10 days to build MySpace and get it launched. And when you consider how big MySpace was, it sort of ran from 2003, and it was growing momentum. Monkey Boy's Toys there puts Tom was my only friend, lol. Wow. He was... At one point, he was everyone's first friend. Yeah, well, you wouldn't mind being friends with Tom, because to be honest with you, up in 2003 it launched, and then in 2005, MySpace actually sold to the News Corporation and Rupert Murdoch for $580 million. That's the popularity of MySpace, because Rupert Murdoch was basically brung into a meeting, and they spoke to him and said, look, you haven't got to create content because the users create their own content. You can sell advertising space. these kids are hooked to it. It's basically a drug to them. They're on it. They're sharing it. And Rupert Murdoch, basically, the deal was done in 20 minutes. He agreed an amount, 580 million. And Tom and Chris they didn't leave. They stayed on for a few more years. Tom basically stayed on as president, and Chris stayed on as, I think, the CEO. I may have got that wrong, but bear with me. Just worth saying here, a lot of this is taken from memory this evening, and also our research is done off the internet, so errors do occur. But yeah, so what do you think on that, Kim? 580 million quid. Not quid, dollars, sorry.
Is
for
he
MySpace.
Sharing? Is he sharing?
Is he? Well, Tom's actually
sharing the funds.
Tom's actually retired now. He's a.
Of course he is.
Yeah, well, we'll go in. We'll go into what Tom's up to now and what Chris DeWolf's up to a little bit later. But yeah, CWC, Collecting with Coolputs. Justin Timberlake brought MySpace later for almost nothing. He did. I am going to go into this a little bit later. It wasn't almost nothing, but it wasn't even 10% of the value. It wasn't even 10% of the value of what Rupert Murdoch and News Corporation paid for it. So, yeah, at its height, MySpace had 300 million users. And I think approximately half of those were Kim and her emo friends, to be fair. Because let's be fair, MySpace was heavily known for its emo scene and culture. So Kim, before I spit any more facts here, do you want to tell us some of your memories of your time on MySpace and what you did on there and how you came to it?
MySpace was actually where I first learned how to do HTML coding. So I got heavily into coding and systems actually from MySpace, even though it was generally like an emos club, because we had a lot of bands and stuff that were in my local city and stuff, and everybody wanted to be friends with them because they were big emo bands and all the girls loved them, and MySpace just became like a thing. But I got MySpace, learned how to code, learned how to put music up, fancy banners and stuff like this, and then I ended up growing my own brand at the time, because obviously people who were emo didn't use their actual name on MySpace. They had a specific like trademark.
So was that
name.
the birth of Kim Gonick then? Does the name
No.
carry? No. Okay. Do you remember your MySpace name, just in case anyone here ever found you? I doubt they remember.
It was Miss Fate, and I had a copyright at the end of it.
You had to.
So nobody else would use it.
You copyrighted yourself on MySpace.
Yeah, I did. I did.
So Chasing 80s Toys is part. I'm sure one day we get MySpace, the Netflix miniseries at some point. We probably will, because tonight we're just having a little bit of a fun trip down memory lane with a few facts thrown in. But there's a lot to the story of MySpace. And going back to what you were saying, Kim, so the HTML programming thing, we know I'm not the most technical. Is that the thing? I used to go to a website and I used to put pictures into it, and it used to like generate a load of like gobbledygook, and I'd paste it into my profile, and then I'd have like a super cool profile. Is that what that is?
Yeah, so you used to be able to go and get like the pre-made ones where people would put in the code, and then you could just change like the JPEG files and stuff in it to put in your own stuff. And then there was things to put in different sized and shaped music players and stuff like that. And then depending on how interested you were in it, you could learn how to do some of the original coding, which was what I learned to do, so that I could completely change the layout of it, which I actually thought was the fun part of MySpace. It actually kind of upsets me a little bit that Facebook doesn't allow you to do that. It's so generic.
Well, Facebook's certainly a lot more sterile looking than what we know MySpace was back in the day. I mean, another interesting thing about MySpace, and you've got to consider this, after the point of acquisition from News Corp and Rupert Murdoch, there was a point in time when Facebook had more internet traffic than Google did. Now wrap your head around that. It had more traffic than Google. Now, if you said a website today had more traffic than Google, that would be mind-blowing. Yeah. This was the sheer popularity of that website. And of course, you know, that it's probably worth saying here as well that there was something that there was this young developer called Mark Zuckerberg or something, and he actually approached MySpace and said, I've got this company called The Facebook. It was called The Facebook. And he said to him, can you give me $75 million for it? And they said, no, we don't think it's worth that. We don't think it's going to amount to anything. So so think on that. At one point, MySpace was so big, they told old Zuck to do one. Now you're not worth $75 million. That's crazy. And the story leads on, because as we will find out as we go through this, that was probably one of the big mistakes they made. So, you know, it's crazy to think at one point Zuckerberg went out to them and asked if they'd buy him. And he actually, you know, they didn't think Facebook was anything. They didn't think it was a threat. They didn't think it was anything that was going to stand in their way of internet dominance. But look at how the tables have turned. I just want to bring this comment up here from Reading Movies. He's put, MySpace seemed mostly music to me. Never saw it as social media as such. That's interesting, because one aspect of MySpace, me and Kim were chatting about this earlier, I did have a personal profile on there. I didn't have as many friends as Kim. Go on, Kim. Tell them how many friends you had on MySpace. Tell them.
I had about 3,000 at one point.
3,000 friends.
Well, friends.
I had a couple of hundred. But I used to use MySpace for band purposes, because I was in punk bands, and I was in a punk band whilst being in a metal band, and I was in several bands, and that's what we used to use it for. We used to upload our own music to it, you know, and that's one of the ways we promoted ourselves. And when you think bands like the Arctic Monkeys as one example, UK band, that's where they got their foothold. That's where they got discovered. They blew up on MySpace, as did some other bands. So MySpace really was a place where you could grow a community and you could become well known. And because of the size of them, because of the sheer fact that Rupert Murdoch had purchased them, because of the traffic they were getting, it literally was possible to, or probably never played a gig, start a band and upload your music and effectively become famous and signed. Because am I right in saying, Kim, that one of the reasons you were well known on MySpace is because you were involved with the emo music scene?
Yeah. So, like, we went to gigs and stuff, but I also had a boyfriend who was in a band that was, like, all the hot guys out of the band were basically the emo guys that girls were, like, fanning over. I look at it now and think it's absolutely ridiculous. But no, I was like, they used to travel around the UK and stuff like that, and obviously they did merch and everything, so they actually had a MySpace for not only their band, they had a MySpace for merchandise, and then you got to know other people who seemed to get a name for themselves on MySpace. So as soon as you were tagged or linked with any of those people, you just started getting random friend requests.
The weird thing is, Kim, there's every chance, and Kat Vader's girl put 3K, 3K followers, and in those days that was big. And MSC puts, oh my God, Kim, you were a MySpace star. There's every chance that we may have been friends on MySpace then.
Quite
because
possibly.
although emo music wasn't really my thing, I lost count of how many people added me on MySpace. Mm-hmm. Just to be my friend, and it's probably because I had a picture that looked slightly gothic. And how many people I probably scrolled down and looked at their profile and went, oh, I'll add them. They look cool. And Hello to GeForce Racing in the chat for popping in this evening. Thanks for coming along, dude. So, yeah, that's... So 3,000 followers, and you're in the emo scene, So, were you using it? Were you using it to fangirl bands and meet bands? Were you doing no judgment if you were? No judgment if you were. Are you sure?
Yeah, because I was going out with a guy in a band.
Oh, sorry, I missed that part. My apologies.
Yeah, I was going out with a guy that was in a band, so I was in amongst all the other local bands that were kicking about at that stage anyway. So it was like... So no, I wasn't fangirling over... Do you know what, though? The only one thing I remember is... Some people might remember Bring Me the Horizon with Ollie Sykes back in the day who had a massive fringe.
Yeah, I remember. Who doesn't remember them?
I'm not a Bring Me the Horizon fan, just putting it out there. But I went to a gig because my friends were going, and his fringe hair extensions fell out mid-gig.
Oh,
like
that's
his
epic.
His clip-ins just fell out. It's like, wow,
you've just ruined the illusion of that fringe for me now. So it was all fake.
Yeah, it wasn't real.
Like pre-filter days, people were putting extensions in to get their fringe bigger.
Yeah.
See, when I look back at MySpace, to me the music. I mean, I used to be heavily involved with message boards. One of the message boards. Do you remember those, Kim? Message boards before it was sort of like a form of so you go to a site, someone you were a fan of, they'd have a message board, and there used to be. Everyone here in the chat will certainly remember Jackass, and whether they remember the CKY skate videos and CKY the band. Well, I eventually ended up being a moderator for Ryan Dunn from Jackass, and one of the things that put me onto MySpace was the fact that people on the page were talking and linking their MySpace. So that's how I ended up there. So Gerard O'Connor puts, saw Bring Me the Horizon in January alongside Bad Omens. Amazing gig. I bet that was a blast from the past. I wonder if he still had his fringe extent. He probably, at this point in time, he probably needs a hair implant.
They kind of do different music now, though.
Oh, do they?
Yeah. But I was never really into their original music, and I'm certainly not into their new music. I think, to be fair, Ollie Sykes was not known as the nicest person on the planet, which kind of put me off the band anyway.
I mean, bands I can remember really being popular in the MySpace days were My Chemical Romance. They were huge. Oh God, why can't I remember the name of the band? Who did the song? I write the song. I write the sins, not the tragedies. Who was that? Someone, MSC will know.
Yeah.
Panic at the Disco. Panic at the Disco.
Yeah.
Yeah, and certainly bands like Fall Out Boy were very popular. I remember them sort of, because this was the thing on MySpace. Also, with your customized profiles, you could also have your own music player and upload your favorite songs. Now, it's fair to say, I don't need to go into... I've got a ton of notes on this. I don't need to bore everyone with all the legal mumbo-jumbo. But Facebook ultimately had to try and work with artists because people were literally... This was the day of Napster and stuff when like, illegal torrents and downloading was rife and bands were getting upset about, and rightly so, not getting paid for their music being used. So... There were many times when MySpace actually ended up working with artists and things so that you could upload songs and the artists got their royalties. But back in the day, Kim, did you ever think twice about uploading a song of a favourite band onto MySpace and worry about the ramifications or what it meant? Because we just, and I wouldn't even call it ignorance. We just. Well, perhaps ignorance is the same as not knowing any better, but that's just what it was back then. We were uploading these... Because when I would go on my page, so let's think what my page was. So I remember I had like a cool gothic sort of thing, which was... I was straddling the line between being a punk musician and a metal musician, right? So I had my cool edgy pictures and my dark sort of profile. And I remember I would always... I've been a life... for as long as I can remember, if you look, I'm covered in tattoos. I've got Motorhead tattoos all over me. So I'd always have a Motorhead song on my profile, always. just to show I was a Motorhead fan. But I remember a heavy rotation on my profile. Always a lot of System of a Down. Chop Suey, I think, was played on my profile, God knows how many times. And then a punk band, a sort of thrash punk, speed punk band called Zeke. So I was big into them. So, and then beneath that, you'd have your sort of your top 8 friends. Now, Kim, I'm going to ask you, did you used to use your top 8 friends to sort of let people know if they'd pissed you off, if they were in the clique?
Yeah.
So go on, give us some examples, dude.
So it was always like you either had your top 8 or your top 12. So it was like whoever was your number 1, you knew that they'd like, if they dropped down to like your number 3 or something like that, they'd like leave you a comment to be like, number 3, why am I down to number 3 now? Why is this person number 1 now?
I remember this causing actual dramas. Just quickly to say, Emma C says, do you remember the band Pitch Shifter? Their drummer, I do remember Pitch Shifter. The drummer gave me some drum lessons once. My poor attempt at a claim to fame. Hey, I think that's quite a good claim to fame, Em. So I'm going to give you that one. But yeah, I remember people literally falling out, getting pissy as hell because they'd been demoted from on the friends list. And what would be, see, I always used to go with a top 8. Were you a top 8 or top 12 girl?
Well, top 12 because I had more people.
Oh, you had 3,000 followers. You had a lot of having to a lot. I mean, so with 3,000 friends on MySpace, if you made it in the top 12 in Kim Gonick's world, you really were the elite. Mm-hmm. I always used to sort of keep mine as whoever I was seeing at the time would probably be number 1, and 3 friends, Jim, Dave, and Pete, who's called Pete the Collector, who pops up sometimes in the chat, and and then whoever else it would just be a mix. So what's Kat put there?
I did this. When
Vader's
you were
girls
like,
put,
if somebody else like bumped you down in their friends list, you would bump them down to the same position on your friends list just out of spite.
So just to add a bit more context, if anyone's just listening in the audio format, Vader's girl. So if you could just bring that up again for me, sorry, Kim. Or actually, there we go. Vader's girl put, I remember getting bumped down and then bumping that person down in spite. So that, yeah, what Kim just said. I don't think I ever did that, but this was how serious it was on MySpace. Like, and also I know people can put statuses on Facebook now, and people put, I mean, one of the things that pisses me off I close my Facebook down every few months just to get away from the bullshit that is on Facebook, because I just, not so much people's bullshit. One thing my phone does is even though I mute the notifications of Facebook still manages to notify me of everything. And I hate my phone going off. So I lost my temper with it the other week and just literally closed everything down. And I'll go back at some point. But I remember, you know, people now will put things like, oh, so annoyed. And it's sort of baiting people to respond and say, are you okay, hun? I've DM'd you, hun, and all this stuff. We all know this behavior. We all know this. But I mean, this still happened on MySpace because you had a mood, so that you could put your mood, couldn't you? And people would do things as dramatic as they'd have a real light, airy profile, and then they would change it to something really black and solemn, and they put like all depressing music, and they put mood like depressed.
You not got a slide on that?
Let me just have a little look. We have indeed got some slides. So it's probably worth chucking. Yeah. So I have got some slide. I've brung up a slide here, and this shows some examples of MySpace profiles. And if I jump to this one here, if we look at the standard MySpace, so when you started MySpace, this would have been you wouldn't have been Tom, but you'd have had your profile picture, and this was how basic and plain your MySpace profile would have been. And so once you got into figuring out HTML or finding one of the online code generators, you could do stuff like this. Now, I've actually obscured identity. I don't know why, but I've obscured identities of people's profiles because I've pulled these off of Google. And as you can see here, you've got super colourful, and you've got this person here. They've got their songs. And you think, as we said earlier, you know, your first friend on Facebook was always Tom. Next to him's the chap I mentioned, Chris DeWolf. But you'd personalise your profile. You'd get your music. But yeah, you could, if someone's profile suddenly dramatically changed, people would be like reaching out. Or did you ever used to write blogs on MySpace, Kim? Do you remember you had the feature to do blogs?
Yeah, I never really wrote blogs and stuff like that, but I did have like friends in my friend group that used to write blogs, and stuff like that. Yeah, it was a very petty environment.
Yeah, just to add there, Monkey Boys Toys for MSE. He put seen Pitch Shifter 3 times live, great band. And to what Kim just said there, Gerard O'Connor said, so not a petty environment then. Yeah, oh my God, yeah. But the thing with MySpace was, if you deleted your MySpace profile, that was it. It was gone. See, I closed my Facebook down probably once or twice a year for a month or two, just as I say, I just get annoyed with notifications and stuff, you know, but it's always there when you go back to actually delete a Facebook profile is incredibly difficult. And then I believe they still give you a cooling off period, don't they? Like you can put it and then it's like 30 days or something. But MySpace, you deleted your profile and that was it. And I do remember, did you have any friends who ever did the ultimate sacrifice? They deleted I remember a couple of friends who deleted their MySpace profiles over whatever had gone on, whatever drama there was in the band scene or whatever girlfriend they'd broken up with. Because you got to remember, a lot of us were in our late teens at the time, so
I did have people
we weren't the most adult.
Yeah, like I used to find it funny that some people who used to be in my top 12, like you knew drama had gone on because all of a sudden I'd have a new person appear on my top 12, and that was because that person had deleted their profile. But then they all of a sudden popped up with a new name.
Yeah,
and then you used to get random friend requests, and you were like, who's that? And then you're like, oh, this is this person. They've just decided to make themselves a new profile with a new name and make it completely different to everything that had happened before.
Yeah, so looking back now, sort of MySpace, it's not really fair to call them dramas. Even on Facebook or MySpace, people falling out on, let's not call it dramas, let's call it people falling out. People falling out was just as prevalent in 2003, 2004, 2005 as it is today. Basically, humans never change. There's always those conflicts. And yeah, but to that, I remember that people literally deleting their MySpaces. I remember there was one girl, and she was like you. She was a bit of a MySpace star. We all knew her, and she'd show up. I remember her. I don't want to say her name in case anyone remembers her, because she had a lot of followers. Proper emo girl, and she went on later to be a suicide girl. Do you remember those, Kim?
Yes.
It's not anything bad. She didn't do anything bad to herself, you know. Suicide girls were sort of your more gothic girls, your tattooed girls, and they basically did nude pictures, poses, like glamour shots.
I think suicide girls is still a thing, though.
Oh, is it really?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure suicide girls is still a thing.
Yeah, see, that was a subculture that I went with it. But anyway, this girl in particular, she'd walk into these little venues around Poole and Bournemouth where I used to live. And she would walk in like she was hot shit. Do you know what I mean? Because she was a suicide girl, or later on she was. But I mean, she was prevalent. She was there for years, but she was sort of MySpace famous. Later on, she was a suicide girl, and it was almost like, oh, the attitude on her. I remember me and my friends used to like think, who the hell does she think she is? Did you ever encounter any of that when you do meetups or things or gigs with people?
The only thing I used to get was I never acted the same way as other people with the same amount of friends. Like, people used to come up to me and obviously want pictures and stuff, because as soon as you're classed as MySpace famous, people want a picture with you regardless of whether you actually mean anything to the world. But I was usually more than happy to do it, but I'm also was somebody that, I don't know how I became MySpace famous, to be quite honest, because it wasn't something I was ever looking for. So it was like,
yeah,
it's weird.
I mean, when you think, so MySpace was the first big social media buzz, wasn't it? Mm-hmm. And if you remember how we met through Instagram. And once upon a time, I had, and I'm not exaggerating, and Kim will back me, I had quite a popular social media account on Instagram, and that's how I met Emma C. And it was because I did a weight loss journey, because I used to be, I'm not the slimmest guy in the world, but I used to be a lot bigger. And I dropped something like 109 pounds in 6 months. And I recorded my journey. And I can remember there were like, we do like Instagram meetups and things, and they still go on now. But things like this were happening back in the MySpace days. So all this stuff we were doing on Instagram, all this stuff that we do in the toy community where we meet up and that, this is how it, let's be fair, we have to give credit to MySpace, because it was sites like MySpace. When MySpace launched, YouTube was pretty much new. It was a different space. No one really knew what it was going to be or what it was going to mold to be. So I do think, although ultimately, MySpace started to fail, there were things that went wrong. For instance, Rupert Murdoch, Tom and Krista Wolf both said in an interview I watched that one of the problems they had was when it was just them who owned the company, they could push decisions through very quickly. If they wanted to do something, they could do it. But once News Corp took over, they had to go through the execs. And this slowed things down. So when they had competition from sites like Facebook, who were sort of starting to grow rapidly, because at one point, MySpace had 80% of the market share of social media. That's how big they were. And then it got to the point that Facebook had 20%. And of course, we all know that Facebook's the number one now. And they couldn't make the decisions. They couldn't evolve quick enough. And then Rupert Murdoch, well, not Rupert Murdoch directly. You can't say it was Rupert Murdoch. It was his corporation. But they were selling ad space. And this, obviously, they've got to make their money back. They've got to make their investment back. Even YouTube's got to have, how many of us get pissed off every time we click a video now and we've got to watch 2 adverts? I know I don't pay for YouTube Premium, but they were doing things, and some certain controversies were that they were doing things. Now, given the fact that there were a lot of teenage girls in there, they were advertising weight loss pills and pills. So this got them in the news. This sort of got some bad energy around what they were doing. Are they encouraging people to, these young vulnerable kids? Is it damaging their sort of self-image and what have you? And other things that sort of started to mess up MySpace were they used quite antiquated. I'm told this through my research and interviews I watched. They used quite antiquated development systems, like programming systems, which developers really didn't like. Whereas Facebook would allow outside developers to make apps for them, MySpace wouldn't allow this. It was all in-house. So at the start, although at the start they sort of they were in there first, things started to evolve, and ultimately, we all know now you can pick up your phone and you can go on Facebook and it's fine. But MySpace wasn't really evolving with the age of more mobile phones and things coming along, and it didn't have a seamless system. So obviously other sites are coming along and you can take your device with you, whereas basically on MySpace, for it to work, you had to be at your computer. And of course, there were other problems in the days of MySpace. It was reported on quite heavily that there were quite a few, and as disgusting as it is, but let's face it, the world's a dark place. There were quite a lot of predators on MySpace, quite a lot of people posing as people they weren't. which you're going to find on all social.
Yeah, I feel like we can say that about MySpace, but to be honest, I don't. I think it's
Kim,
worse now than it was then. I think
it is, but I think the thing I think the thing I would say for MySpace there is because MySpace was the first big one. Of course, they caught the first big flack for it.
Yeah.
You know, and this is always going to be a case with social media. I mean, the world's full of shitheads, let's put it that way. So you've always got to have your guard up when you're online. But of course, MySpace being the big number one daddy in the scene at the time and the first big one to break through, of course, they got it slung at them a lot harder than anyone else did, really. And, you know, I'm not... Before we go into sort of the demise of MySpace and what it is now, because MySpace is still going, Kim, I believe you've prepared some slides and got some information on other things that were around in the age of MySpace. Do you want to go into those?
Yeah, we can do. So obviously we're talking about MySpace, which was actually in 2003, but we forget that Bebo actually appeared in January 2005. So that actually became sort of quite big and people started using sort of Bebo. I was definitely a Bebo user. Do I think it was as popular as MySpace? No, because there were sort of limitations and stuff to it, but it still had the same idea as MySpace where you had a top number of friends, you could move people about, you had your other half. I remember sharing love. You only had a set amount of love that you could share per day and it only went to the special people, and you had polls and whiteboards. And then they started introducing different things like skins, so you could put different themes and stuff onto your Bebo profiles. But it actually started out as like more of a blog. So that's what Bebo was actually trying to be. It was trying to be a blog, which, to be fair, MySpace kind of was a little bit like that right at the beginning. It was a bit more of a blog. So really, I feel like Bebo was kind of just an alternative take on MySpace. It was just in a more of a sort of like kiddie version. You could do quizzes. Like whiteboards was its biggest thing, so that people could actually draw stupid little cartoons and images and stuff and post it onto your page.
There was something like that on Facebook in years ago. I mean, I have to say, as much as I'm aware of Bebo, I'm sorry to interrupt you, I never used Bebo, so yeah, it's interesting to hear about this whiteboard thing. Did you find that Bebo had the same sort of popular? Did it capture the same sort of people? Was it still the sort of emo, the music scene, the underground?
So it was definitely very much... okay, so there was an emo scene, but then there was also a big sort of chav scene as well, like a chav sort of
Council housed and violent, chav.
Yeah. But we have to remember...
Disclaimer, sorry, I grew up in a council house and was proud to. Just say that's from a Plan B song, Chav, council housed and violent, from the song Ill Manners. So that's why I'm not being derogatory. Yeah,
but I think it's also when we talked about the fact that Bebo was more a blog. I don't think most people understood what Bebo was actually an acronym for. It was for blog early, blog often. So it was like for people to actually tell about their day and what they were up to and what they were doing, but the website, at its height of its popularity, actually overtook MySpace and became the most widely used social network website, especially in the UK, because it was mainly a UK thing, registering about 10.7 million users at one point, just from the UK alone. It was obviously... Face Party? I don't remember Face Party.
MSC's put, does anyone remember Face Party? That was like a knockoff of Bebo. I can't say I do, but if anyone else in the comment section, as Emma's asked, if anyone remembers, please do put your comments and be interesting to hear.
But Bebo was eventually sold to AOL, and it actually sold in 2008 for $850 million.
What? So, wow. So more than MySpace.
Yeah, so it was sold for $850 million. So it was like a combined 70% stake yielding of profit and everything. So they had all of that. They kept Bebo going, but then sort of Bebo shut down. And what's really funny is the original founders, Michael and Soshi Birch, they then bought Bebo back for $1 million after selling it for $850 million.
Okay.
And attempted to relaunch it in 2013. And they attempted to relaunch it as Bebo Blab. So it had a bit more to try and add in some more popular features and stuff. But unfortunately, it was then sold to Amazon in 2019 and officially shut down for good in 2022 because it never even left the beta testing phase. So this new version they were going to launch never even left the testing phase. So we never saw it.
Oh, wow. Just back to Emma C's comment. Vader's girl, Kat, says she never heard of Face Party. And Monkey Boy's Toys, our Monkey Boy. Shameless plug here from the live moderately entertaining stream with me. He says, I remember Face Party. So...
Oh, need to look it up.
Yeah, I'll have to have a look into that. It's interesting because before you go into your next bit, was it Gerard O'Connor? I'm sorry if I got the wrong person here. Someone said earlier on that about Justin Timberlake basically buying MySpace. But MySpace, News Corporation sold MySpace. It was actually sold in 2011. Prior to that, Tom and Krista Wolf actually left the company in 2009 because after the acquisition, they did stay on. As I say, Tom was president. Krista Wolf was CEO. Tom has now actually gone on to be a photographer. And Krista Wolf, I have got it here. I had it here, but I've just managed to absolutely click out of my notes. I do apologise. Krista Wolf is now is a CEO of his own company, so they've gone on to do other things. Sorry about this. I'm sorry. I was just referencing something there, and this is the thing you'll get to see if you see us live. If this was a pre-recorded episode and Kim's come across as... How many times, Kim, when we pre-record, I'm referencing a note and I'm like, oh, shit, I've pressed the wrong thing. Stop a minute. Well, that's what I've just...
One of these days we'll need to add bloopers, I think.
Yeah, well, you get the bloopers live when it's now. So, so back to what I was saying... Krista Wolf now has his own company that he's running. I believe it's a video game company. I'm sorry that I haven't got the name on me right now, but News Corporation sold MySpace in 2011, and Justin Timberlake was one. They sold it to a company called Specific Media and Justin Timberlake for $35 million, and Gerard O'Connor has just put, I have no knowledge of Justin Timberlake's swear. Don't even give me that, Gerard, because I guarantee you were in a club 20 years ago dancing to Justin Timberlake songs. I'm going to rock your body away. Yeah, and I know his songs because I've got four sisters.
I thought you were going to go for Senorita.
No, or Cry Me a River. Cry Me a River. And if you want to copyright claim me, YouTube, I'm not monetized. I don't care. And I can't sing either. So there's a middle finger. Anyway, you can't edit this out because it's live.
Oh, dear.
There's the problem with being live. Yeah, so they sold it for $35 million, which some people have gone, oh, well, that's a massive loss. But I don't think for 1 minute that... I don't think for 1 minute that Rupert Murdoch didn't make his money back through the MySpace era. It was valued at $12 billion. The advertising revenue was massive. One of the reasons Rupert Murdoch basically lost interest in MySpace was slow development, and he brought the Wall Street Journal. So he had bigger fish to fry than MySpace had served its purpose. As it goes on, Specific Media and Justin Timberlake, it's been sold now a couple more times. I mean, the just to reference back to Wall Street Journal, that was 2007 that Rupert Murdoch brought that. So things really, so from 2007, his interest was lost. The sort of, it sort of started to decline. 2011, old Trouser Snake comes in with specific media. And then, yeah, I said it, Justin Trouser Snake. That's what they all used to call him.
I wasn't laughing at that. I was laughing at Jared's comment.
Nick is bringing sexy. I'm bringing sexy back. I swear it's because I've got 4 sisters that I know all these Justin Timberlake songs. It's not because I have stood in a club and danced to it many times.
Yeah, okay.
Because I never send Monkey Boys Toys videos of me singing in the bath to pop songs. I know that sounds weird. It's not as weird as it sounds. Anyway, but yeah, no, MySpace has been sold a couple more times since. I believe now it's owned by someone called the Meredith Corporation. Before I go into what MySpace has essentially become, Kim, you spoke on Bebo, but I do believe you've got a couple of other slides you just want to go through and other things that were kicking about around the time of MySpace in its heyday.
Yeah, so I think the other thing we need to remember is obviously MySpace was around during sort of the early 2000s and everything, but we also have to remember Facebook did actually appear in 2004, so it was only really a year after, but we just didn't hear about it because it wasn't open to the public. So it was actually, originally it was found by 4 people. It wasn't just Mark Zuckerberg. It was Eduardo Saverin, Dustin Moskovitz, and Chris Hughes. They were all students at Harvard at the time. And they actually made Facebook as like a directory of finding people and connecting with other students on campus, because they used to just get everything on sheets of paper and you couldn't see what people looked like or their emails or their number. Or their numbers. I'm
just sorry to cut you off there, Kim. Travels and more with Jason, but don't lie, Nick. You know Timberlake songs off by heart. Yes, I do. And I tell you what, another band, an English band, Five. I tell you what, I can sing every one of the songs from their back catalogue. I've got no shame. I'm proud to come from a council house, and I'm proud to love pop music. There you go. These revelations. Five. Sorry, Kim.
It's okay. So. It was really just used as a university directory first, and then obviously it was originally called the Facebook, and then it changed to Facebook. So obviously it now has nearly 3 billion users as of 2021, and about half that number were using sort of Facebook every day. So it was the Facebook when it launched in 2004. And then they'd sort of done this as like an undergraduate project when they put this together. And he obviously brought in his friends and everything, who was our business aspects, programmer, graphic artists, all to sort of expand this. And then Facebook expanded to Stanford, Columbia, Yale, basically to all your sort of Ivy League schools, and it really opened up as a directory for universities. But then in October the 1st, 2005, Facebook expanded to nearly 21 universities in the UK. So they moved over to the UK the year after. And then they launched a high school version after that. And then they removed the from the title in 2005 because they purchased the domain name Facebook for $200,000 at the time. I couldn't imagine spending $200,000 for a domain name. It's paid off now, obviously, but
but obviously it's gone on now. It's been opened up to everyone. It's interesting when you said on the Bebo thing about there was a chav culture. I believe I would have grown up in what would have been classed as the chav culture. But Facebook. So what you're saying is Facebook. There's a point to my ramblings here. Facebook started off a little bit more exclusive. Graduates, people in education. So, I guess the thing is, it seems logical that you would open, if it's almost the perfect testing ground. But of course, now it's open to absolutely everyone and their dog, and you can hear about Miriam and her argument with her next door neighbor now and how she feels about it.
So Facebook became accessible to the public in 2006. So technically, only 2 years after it was launched. It became open to the general public. Now, In 2005, Facebook had 6 million active users, but by April 2023, that increased to 2.93 billion monthly active users. But we talk about Facebook being so large now, but I was sort of thinking about it in a world population of over 8 billion people, having only 2-3 billion monthly active users seems kind of small when we think that Facebook is meant to be so vast and that everybody uses it.
But I presume Facebook, there's countries in the world that have their...
Well, we can exclude China. China can't use Facebook.
Yeah, okay. So China's excluded. I imagine North Korea's probably excluded.
Yeah, they'll have their own versions, yeah.
Does Facebook have a foothold in India?
I don't know.
It doesn't matter if we don't.
Maybe somebody in the comments knows or can tell us.
Yeah, maybe they do. I mean, because when you go on YouTube, if you look on if you type in top YouTubers on Google, and this all came up through the research of this, all the things you go through. I think the biggest channel in the world with the most subscribers on YouTube is an Indian channel, and I believe they play Bollywood music 24/7. So. And it's the biggest. I mean, Mr. Beast is huge these days, and he can't even get close to this channel from India because India has got such a large population. I just wondered if India do have Facebook. So I'm not going to Google it. If anyone in the comments section wants to Google it for us and put it in, they can. If not, it'll be the thread we never covered.
So yeah, there's obviously we can see from my slide that Facebook has sort of changed over the years. I remember it used to be that you had to be 13 or older to get Facebook. Fairly confident that's still the rule, but kids can fake their birthday. It's not difficult.
Am I right in saying at one point though, did I imagine this? Is this a fever dream? When I first started my Facebook profile years ago, now I could be wrong, maybe this was something else because there's been a lot of drunken nights in the last... Oh God, I'm going to give away my age. But yeah, I'm getting old now, and I'm sure at one point to verify your Facebook profile, did you not have to submit a picture of your driving license? Is that a thing? Did that happen? No. What was that on? Yeah, like,
I don't know. I think it's one of your weird dreams.
It's one of my dreams, though. Again, the joys of being live. We'd have edited this out if this was a pre-recorded episode, but you get to hear all the waffle in between now. So, Kat has put huge in India. So yeah, that would account for a massive part of the users then. And travels and more with Jason's, but I'm sure India as Facebook, as one of my ex was from India and she talked to her family. Yeah, well, it makes sense. Certainly. So, but I mean, that's probably Mr. B puts that's probably a Pern site, Nick. I mean, work out what he actually means from that, people. It's interesting. I'm just going to bring up this comment from Reading Movies. I haven't read it yet. This could be dangerous. Earliest memories of Facebook: getting bitten by zombies, vampires, and getting poked. And then, Kim, I can't read that last word. Use your intelligence for me. Defenstrated? Yeah.
It's not a word I've come across, so it might be a new one for my dictionary.
And MSC puts to Mr. B, you're thinking of OnlyFans. Do you know that's what happens when you open this up live. You open it up to the gutter of the you open it up to the gutter of the comment section, and frankly, I'm loving it. So, was there anything else you wanted to cover other than Facebook? I'm sure, did we not have a discussion about MSN and you were shocked because I said I never had MSN?
Yeah, I don't understand how you never had MSN. MSN was a huge part of my teenage years.
Well,
Massive.
let me tell. Well, one, I'm 5 years older than you.
Which makes it even more strange, really.
Well, no, because we didn't have a PC at home. We didn't have a computer at home. And I was in my first job at I just turned 17 when I started my first full-time job, and it was office-based. It was at a law firm. I was studying and training to be a legal executive. I know, shock, horror. Don't make that face at me, Kim. I did all right.
I'm saying nothing. Saying nothing.
And I know, and now I'm just a rough old builder. I know. However, but I much prefer my job now. Much more fun. Because we didn't have a PC at home, I used to hang out with a friend called Jim nearly every night. He had a laptop, and I remember he'd come around my house and he'd plug it into our phone thing, and my mum would go apeshit if she picked up the phone and she could hear the dial tone, because we'd be taking internet. And so I'd do all my not Facebook, and I'd do all my MySpacing at work when I was doing nothing, and on Jim's laptop. So, because, this was before smartphones. I mean, now, if a kid hasn't got a laptop at home or a PC, the chances are they've got a smartphone, and all these things are available to them. So for me, it was just because I didn't. I remember my sister got one of those Apple computers, which was like a TV, which had the Mac built into it and a keyboard, and it was like purple and see-through, and she used to go mental at me if she'd come in and I was using it. I was like, I'm just checking the Ryan Dunn message for him to see what's going on. But anyway, so back to MSN, Kim.
To be fair, I think most of us will have nightmares, and we all remember what the dial tone was. We could probably all repeat it and make those weird noises.
So, Kim, before you get into this slide, how many times have you seen me go absolutely mental because an app takes 3 seconds to open on my phone?
Yeah, I know. And you just think, you used to have to wait 5 minutes, and you were waiting for a specific tone to happen because you knew as soon as it happened that you were connected. You're like, yes, it worked. Somebody would pick up the phone and you're like, get off the phone, I need to use the internet.
I remember one of my friends, it took him I think it was around a day and a half, 2 days to download a trailer for The Phantom Menace, the Star Wars film back in the day, because it was such a big file and it would have looked like crap. And various just things that on the internet, things used to take so long, but they didn't feel like they took long. But now I was going to say various. I remember my friend trying to download an adult movie. It just took too long. It just took too long.
I'm just looking at reading movies. Does everybody remember in the early days of Facebook, you used to be able to poke people?
Yes, yeah, and you could super poke
each other. Yeah, and you super poke. And I think I remember when I first got Facebook that you used to spend most of your evening poking people back who had poked you earlier that day or the night before.
Which in 2024, if you say I spent an evening poking someone, it's a very different concept, isn't it?
Yeah. Because you used to say at school, why do you keep poking me? And then people were like, why are they poking you?
But do you remember on Facebook, I can remember this, you used to be able to put, when you had your friends, they've just brought back the poke in the last bit. They've brought back the poke. I might just have to reactivate my profile to go around poking people.
I feel like, Emma, you should not have told him that, because now everybody's just going to go back and be like, why has Nick suddenly reappeared and is just poking everyone?
I'm coming back and I'm poking you all.
So ridiculous, man.
Oh, shit. Sorry. Oh dear, sorry. Again, the joy of not having an edit.
Oh.
And Emma C puts, I'll go collect Poker Pete right now. Sorry.
Oh, we're such children. We apologise, everybody. We apologise.
We're just poking everyone tonight. I just got to say, Lester San Jose, the Skeptic Tank, he is thanks for popping in. So he says, loving this deep dive. Well, it was going really swimmingly well until Emma C mentioned about poking people. And we're basically just Well, I've just got to bring up this comment from Travels with Jason. Oh, I was always poking a couple of ladies on there, and then back at me. I mean, this is an innocent thing.
I know, it's so innocent. We're just being really childish.
Sake. Sorry I swore, people. I hope that didn't pick up on. You either just heard me say for F's sake when I was laughing there, or you can hear my cat snoring, one or the other.
The thing about it is I still can't say poke without it sounding wrong in my head.
Stop saying poke.
Sorry.
Just stop. Now.
Anyway, right.
Draw a line under it.
Okay.
Get on with it.
MSN. Since you didn't understand MSN and didn't have it, then I'm hoping the people in the comment section can speak to me about MSN. While Nick clears himself up because he just spit his beer out. What a waste. Anyway, moving on.
Just carry on. I'm going to mute myself.
We're not going to get very far, are we? Right.
I'm muting.
Okay, Nick's had to take a break, guys. Nick's had to take a break. So yeah, MSN. I remember using MSN all the time. It's one of the things I miss the most is when you used to be able to put in some of the early emojis and actual like moving parts. So like you used to be able to punch people in the face and like put on a nudge and stuff, and it would actually
I've just come back from poking and now we're punching people. Right, okay, so you could punch people in the face on MSN.
Yeah, but look, we're scaring people away from the chat because you're laughing.
They're all right. They've just gone to make a cup of tea.
Yeah, but you used to be able to sort of like get these weird, creepy sort of cartoon emoji things that you could put on, and it would like punch you in the face or kick a football. My favorite was nudge, because if somebody wasn't responding to you, you could then send them a nudge and it would make the whole screen like shake and their chat window would like appear as the default chat. I actually wish I had the nudge function in my Teams chat for when I'm at work, so when people don't respond to me I can nudge them at work. Would have been my favorite way of doing things. But I used to be on this all the time. It would be like I'd come home from school, I would log straight into like MSN, and you would speak to all your friends. Sometimes you would do your homework. You could do like group chats, loads of things like, and you can see some of like the old chat boxes. A lot of people had the duck as a profile picture. Don't know why, but they did. And people's names on MSN used to be full of like underscores and emojis and hearts and lyrics to songs. Like MSN was a huge place for emos. Massive place for emos.
I've just got to say here to Jojo, if only Nick had a mute function in real life. I feel that's slightly unfair.
Well,
that's the point. I got completely unrelated to the podcast. I've got to phone you tomorrow, Joe. I've broke something at the house. Anyway, back on with the podcast.
Yeah, so it used to be like loads of different names. It would have different lyrics, emojis. People would say like if whoever their other half was, and it would be like between two love hearts. And you could also like make yourself appear offline, so that if you're like the person you fancied or whoever came onto MSN, you could then appear online and it would pop up on their thing to say that you were now online. You're on mute still.
No, I was just saying, sorry while me and Joe sort out fixing the taps at my house in the chat section. This is completely unprofessional of me, but never mind. A couple of the people in the chat mentioned, so Lester brought it up first of all. He mentioned ICQ, and MSC Reading Movies says, I bet a few of you do not remember ICQ, and MSC puts, I loved ICQ. I have no idea what that is. None at all. None at all.
We'll need to take some notes and have a look at some of these. But yeah, so MSN was around for ages, and then it upgraded to Windows Live Messenger. So that's when people started showing green, like if they were available, or red if they were busy or something. But you also could then link to iTunes at the time, or like your media player. So you could show people what you were listening to, which for emos was amazing because it was always emo bands and all the things that were really popular back in the day. Like I was on MSN all the time. Like I could spend hours on MSN and chat to people.
Well, with 3,000
like 2,
friends in the emo scene, I can imagine you were quite popular with messages.
Well, it was also like on MySpace and everything. People used to say, oh, do you have MSN? And you used to give them your username and stuff like that. And you could just chat to people on MSN instead of going back and forth over comments. And Emma's put a comment to explain that ICQ was like MSN, but for people into computer stuff. So not you or me then.
Yeah, but it says you who's like said that you learned how to code earlier. Like,
yeah, but that's
I didn't even know.
basic.
But earlier on in the podcast, I was like, "Is that what HTML is?" And you're like, "Yes, Nick. Yes." When I was on about, like, I understand sound and things and music stuff, but I'm just not the best with particular. I don't know, but and we've just had a new arrival. Hey, Nick and Kim, and hi to the chat. Universal Toy Collector Stu. Hello, mate. Good to see you. Good to see you, sir.
Hey.
Right, so I'm gonna get to the end of what I wanted to say about MySpace, because believe you me, I've got enough notes here that I could bore you to death with facts and figures literally for 2 or 3 hours. But that's not really what we want to do. We just wanted to have a little chat and a reminisce about MySpace and throw a few
You're not going
stuff
to
in.
tell us about the morbid side of MySpace.
Oh, I am afterwards. I am. Bear with me.
Sorry.
Sorry. I was following the slides in the order you programmed them. So I thought you picked an order for the show.
Don't blame me for making the agenda. You chop and change what you talk about all the time. Talking about taps with JoJo.
Well, as I said, you agreed to do a live episode, and I said, you realise there's no editing this? You realise what this means?
Have I had a problem with it being live? Am I the one that had the giggle fit? No.
Anyway. Oh, yeah, it's fun. Anyway, when I can
find
find the
told
slide.
Emma.
So, anyway, this is Facebook today. This is MySpace today. We're so conditioned to say Facebook now when we say social media that a few times this evening I've probably said Facebook instead of MySpace. So I do apologise. It's very bland. It's very bland indeed, and it seems like a weird mix of like music and news. And I have obscured over it because this is my old band's. This is my old band's page, but there's boobies in the picture, artistic boobies that have been drawn. So I thought I'd probably better obscure it because we all know that Facebook doesn't like stuff like bloody Facebook. YouTube doesn't like stuff. There's too many names. We've got MySpace, we've got YouTube, we've got Facebook, and I'm losing it. And what with all this poking malarkey, I'm right off kilter. Anyway, so you can still go to MySpace, and if you never closed your profile, you will be able to find it. But you won't be able to bring up any of your old songs. And the sad thing of it is I got quite excited when I realised you could get to your old profile because there's a demo I recorded for one of my punk bands, and I thought, I lost that demo years ago, and I would love to, even if I just recorded them through like the computer just to have a copy of them. Can't get any of your songs or pictures back. So MySpace is still there, but there are some interesting people. Now I'm going to share a screen from my computer now. Now, this is something called Space Hey. And this is a clone of Facebook. Facebook, I've done it again. This is a clone of MySpace. The only feature I can't find how to do on here is how to embed music, which I can... I said earlier, I didn't want to go massively into all the drama around copyright me. Just know this. I said it earlier. Uploading music to MySpace back in the day caused lots of problems. This was in the day when Metallica were going after tabbing sites. There were bands kicking off. So I haven't found a way of doing that. But if you go on Space Hey, there is an Action Popcast page. But you can go back and you can probably experience 95% of what you experienced back in the day. And you can still do the HTML thing. And you can still... I've just got it on the basic because I wanted to show it on here. But for those of you who are missing it and just want to do it for a bit of fun... Emma C there referencing something from the show I did with Monkey Boys Toys. Yeah. So Space Hey is there and you can get an app on your phone. But Kim, I mean, if you look at this, I know I've not zhuzhed it up because I wanted to keep it sort of vanilla to show what it was. Mm-hmm. But what is that? That is MySpace. That is MySpace 2003.
Yeah, it's MySpace. It's all it's got. I can't get over the fact that you put your mood as groovy. Like of all the words you could choose, you picked groovy.
I can't get over the fact that you can blooming read that. Let me enlarge my screen. Yeah, so active one day ago. Well, this is a blast from the past. That's my blog. About me, podcaster, YouTuber, a journey into Never Neverland. Who would like to meet anyone into nostalgia? And these people have added me. I'm pretty sure they're all bots. But there you go.
You've got 5 friends, though.
I've got 5 friends. You don't get Tom anymore. But you know. But interesting.
You get Space Hey.
Well, interestingly, when Tom, just another fact about MySpace that I can pull from the old chasm there, is when Tom left MySpace, they removed Tom being your first friend. So your first friend became today on MySpace, Tom. See what they did there? So yeah, I think so. I've sort of concluded everything I want to say on main Facebook, but I did want to bring up this weird little phenomenon, this morbid little weird thing. Now, did anyone ever visit? And I've got to find this. Like, Kim, you've put them in an order I don't understand. I'm just blaming you for my incompetence.
Do you want me to bring it up for you?
Please, mate. Could you please? Thank you. It's me. It's not Kim. Kim did nothing wrong. I just literally couldn't see it because there's like 11 slides up here. MyDefSpace.com. Now this was weird. This was weird, and I remember this back in the day. So you know, these days you can, when someone sadly passes away, you can memorialize. Is that the correct word? Memorialize.
Memorialize. Yeah.
Thank you. A page so you can visit it and put comments on anniversaries of things. Now, My DefSpace was a website which basically recorded members of MySpace who had sadly passed away. So you could go on, right? You could go on. Billy, say hello, everyone. This is my cat, Billy. He's come up to say hello. He loves it. Again, can't edit this out. Anyway, you could go on there and it would sort of give you all these different profiles of people who had passed away, and it was actually incredibly morbid, but it would also give you links to news stories and what have you. And this was a big thing. This site was super popular, and I remember back in the day that you go on there and you got to bear in mind the sort of age group of people who use MySpace. I mean, all age groups used it, but it was primarily sort of mid-teen to young adult. And I can remember I was shocked just how many murders and things there were, and it would link all the stuff. So, and I'm not the only weirdo, because this site was super popular and it still exists today, but it actually incorporates Facebook and various things. So I just thought this was a strange little thing that came out of MySpace. And I can remember being quite spooked by it back in the day, because it was a friend who actually put me onto this. She's like, have you seen this My Death Space thing? And I looked at it and I was like, and of course, as much as you're like, oh, this is morbid, I don't want to watch, but we're humans. We all have morbid curiosity. So yeah, I don't know if anyone ever went on there, but this was probably the last thing I wanted to say. So we're talking about, it's not fair to say MySpace is dead. It's not, but it's not what it was. So I just felt it was a nice bookend to mention My Death Space. So I've sort of hit the end of what I wanted to say on MySpace. As I said, I could sit here and read you facts all night if you want, but that's not really what we wanted to do. This is a live show now, and we wanted to give you a little bit. I hope you had a laugh. And in the chat I can see Agent Reynolds, Luke Reynolds of Reynolds Reviews. Hello, sir. Thank you for popping along. So that's really where it was. Was there anything else you wanted to say, Kim? I mean, I'm at where I am. I did want to just maybe have a quick chat with you and sort of ask the audience a couple of things. But was there anything else you wanted to do before I go into the last thing I wanted to say?
No, I think we covered on everything, and I think we need to end on a high after speaking about My Death Space.
Yeah, well, I think the last point I wanted to go into is, I know I said it earlier in the podcast, but for good or for bad, I believe we all owe a little bit to MySpace. I know MySpace wasn't the first social networking site, but it was the first one that exploded. And I think you can see elements of MySpace in everything we do these days, from being a YouTuber, from being a podcaster, from being on Facebook, whatever form of social media you use, from Facebook Messenger. All these things, I believe, do owe a little bit of a debt to MySpace. And I don't know about you, because you know I'm a little bit soft, Kim. There were a couple of times when I watched a couple of documentaries on MySpace, and I was doing my research, because, you know, you may not think it from tonight's show of me losing it over poking, but we do try and take this semi-seriously. And I tried to say that as Kim was taking a sip, hoping she'd spit a drink out, but it didn't work. There was several times through the research of this where I felt a little bit, I'm not a crier, but there were several times when I felt, what's the word? What is it? You feel nostalgic, sentimental, but if I had the capability of crying, I think there'd be a little tear in my eye for looking back at some of the good old days and things. Because this is around, you got to remember, this is around the time I met my wife as well. There's so much from it. And, you know, that's another important thing I wanted to bring up, because earlier on this evening we had Collecting with Cool in, and I just wanted to share this. And this, I didn't meet my wife through MySpace, but friends I knew through MySpace were there when I met my wife. So this is all interconnected. And Collecting with Cool commented on my page the other day, I met my wife on MySpace. And I just thought, wow, the power of that. Think on that. You know, all these years later. So for all the bad, for all the crap, for all the shit we have to go through with social media these days, and everyone experiences it to a degree, there are some good things that come out of it. And I know MySpace isn't what it was, but I think we owe it a debt. And I think some of us, especially our age, I think we you know, forget all the bad crap and stuff that goes on in the world and all the dramas and things that we've had in our lives. I reckon most people, if they really look back and had a proper deep dive and reminisce like we did, I think there'd be a few people who would be feeling a little bit choked when they look back at stuff. Do you know what I mean? Does that make sense?
MySpace was, like, for me, MySpace was just fun. It wasn't serious. It wasn't like... It wasn't as... I think I wasn't as dangerous as social media is now. In my opinion, that's because it was new and people were just using it and having friends and getting to know people and using it as a platform to go, oh my God, I can speak to people in the States now, where bands, I can find out about bands that are in different countries and stuff now. It was a lot more innocent than what I think social media is now. And there was also only certain times that you could be on it. Yeah.
And, Stu, Universal Toy Collectors, I got to meet APD through social media. And a lot of my friends... in this community, this is social media. This podcast, which primarily goes out on YouTube. I know it goes out on other podcast things, but primarily this is a YouTube podcast, right? It's a bonus we do the audio versions and that, but this is all social media and we all met. And it carries on today. And I mean, I've learned behaviour from my teenage years. And I say it, I know it's a bit of a cliche thing to say, but it was a simpler time back then. For me personally, and maybe that's because I was younger and I didn't have... The world's never been a simple place, but at that point in my life, it was a simpler time. I had less responsibilities. So for me, it was simpler. And I learned, some people look back, some people I know who are older, they might look at me and say, and they have done, oh, I don't get all this meeting up with people from online, but were we the first generation to truly... We were the first generation to truly embrace this.
Well, yeah, we were. People who were 90s and early 2000s was when technology really came into play. So
and I met you through social media.
Instagram. Yeah,
Instagram. And I met Stu through social media, who I've now met up with many a time. Chasing 80s Toys. Knew him through social media, through YouTube. Met him in person. Emma C. And let me just go through the list of my friends on here. Travels and more with Jason. All people I have met through what is essentially social media. All people I've had the pleasure of meeting in real life. And people who have become real valued friends in my life. So it's not all bad, is it?
No, I think a lot of the time we look at the bad side of social media, and don't get me wrong,
Reynolds,
there's a bad side. Yeah.
I can keep going through the list of these. Yeah. The list of these amazing people that I have met through social media. Monkey Boys Toys. Again, people who I massively value. And even those who I haven't met in person, Mr. B and that, they're still friends. They're still part of this community we're in. And I think it's quite a special thing. And I don't... Social media's got its shit sides, but it's got its great sides. What's Universal Toy Collector saying? I knew it was safe to meet you, Nick. I knew you didn't want to sleep with me, so I felt safe. So there I am having a deep and meaningful moment. And here comes Stu. And another lovely person I've met through social media. And we've got Kev T from Kev. Everyone, check out Kev T's channel. He is awesome. He's my brother-in-law. If you're into cars, he's salvage hunting. Honestly, check him out. He's awesome. After the stream, of course. Don't all bloody disappear to go to Kev's channel. Kev's awesome. Brilliant to see you, Kev. Thanks, man, for popping on. I didn't see you in the chat. Georgie Norris. Hey, lovely social media. Again, the far, far, far better half of Stu, the Universal Toy Collector. The superior half. But... again, another lovely person who I met through social media and I've had the pleasure to meet in real life. It's good. It's good times, man. And I look back fondly on the MySpace years. And I suspect in 20... there's nothing really negative about now that there's, everything there's... We can pull darkness out of anything. But there's nothing that really I'm having a great time now in this, and I suspect in 10, 15, 20 years time, I'll look back on this and hopefully I'll have the same feeling of that was a great time. Hopefully it's still going. Hopefully we're all still friends. The world evolves, things change. But
I'd love for MySpace to come back in its true form though. Could you imagine like what you could do with like coding and stuff now and being able to go back and letting your personality come out in your profiles and stuff again.
I've got to bring this up. So Jojo is a real life friend who we're good friends in the real world, and we met each other through work, and we've become good friends. But she's put MSC. My parents met on CB Radio 2. So have I missed? That's amazing. But did my and MSC before that I missed this. MSC. My parents met on CB Radio, old school version of social media. So is it fair to say that in whatever format, as soon as technology came about, be it the CB radio, be it the internet, humans around the world have always wanted to connect?
Yeah, and I think we still do. I think
we do.
And I think we're also in a time where we need to be connecting more. I think we need to be coming together more.
I think we need more understanding. I think we need to connect, and I think I think if used correctly, social media can be a force for good rather than a force for bad.
100%. Well, we just have to look at things that happened during, obviously, the pandemic and when people were in lockdown and all the funny videos. It was a
lifeline for people.
Yeah, and spending time with your family and funny videos. Like, I still get the odd video that comes up on like my Instagram or something, and it's funny sort of dancing videos to music that father and daughter did during the pandemic, and I still sit and I watch it, and I probably watched it a million times, but I still enjoy it every time it sort of comes up. And even though I think we need to connect with more people and we need to sort of connect with people more face to face, top tip for everybody, you need 8 hugs a day to maintain your happiness. I learned this the other day. 8 hugs a day. But I think it's one of these things that for people who don't have physical people around them to connect with, sometimes just speaking to somebody online, and considering we have video chats and everything now, makes it so much easier to feel like you're having a face-to-face connection with somebody instead of physically being in the same room. And
I would add to that, if there's anyone in the chat, you know, this is a small community, but it's a good community. We're, you know, if this is the beautiful thing with social media and that, if any of you are ever lonely or you're feeling like you haven't got anyone to speak to, we are all here. Reach out to me, Kim, anyone, and use it for the good that it can be, because we'll always be here to chat and talk and listen, you know. So I don't think we've always had a question at the end of our podcasts, but we can agree. And I didn't actually come up with one tonight, but I'm doing this on the fly. So I guess my question would be, and we already know the answer because we've discussed it. Is social media a good or a bad thing? And I'm going to say, if used correctly, it can be a very good thing. What's your thoughts, Kim?
I do agree. However, I also think it's possible that we have too many platforms now.
I would agree with that. I think use sparingly, use correctly, but then some people, you know, some people are housebound, they can't get it. I think it depends on the individual, doesn't it?
Yeah.
I don't think there's a one size fits all for everyone when it comes to social media.
No, I think it's good to have lots of different platforms, but I don't know if other people feel like this, but I've got friends on so many different platforms, and I actually sometimes really struggle to maintain all of those platforms, and I miss just having one or two, and that's all I would ever use. Because like, if I think about people who their career is their social media, they must be uploading to 10 or 15 different platforms, and I would just find that exhausting.
I mean, I get that, because when we do the promotion for the show or whatnot, you're going through, you do the Facebook side, we do Twitter, we do Instagram, even the YouTube social side of it, the community tab, the chat groups. I mean, there's so many things, and you feel like you're spreading it. So, hey, maybe we just need to bring MySpace back and just put it in one place and have a chat. But I think, despite a couple of hiccups on me, because I'm a child and because we don't have the power of edit this evening. So what you've all got to see a true insight as to what happens when we record APC. It's Kim literally dealing with a child. I think we've managed to just about get through this one. A little bit of housekeeping, and I'll say this again for those listening on Spotify or your preferred podcast platform. Please do check out the Action Popcast channel on YouTube. You can see our faces. You can see the slides. You can see all the stuff we bring up. All of our socials, mine and Kim's, can be found in the YouTube comment section. So again, more incentive to come across if you're listening as whatnot. And yeah, thank you to everyone this evening who's joined us. In a couple of weeks' time, I will be back with Monkey Boys Toys for another episode of Live and Moderately Entertaining. Kim, we're probably a couple of months out from the next episode, are we? With everything, because you're globe-trotting now for work.
Oh yes, I'm not always in the UK now.
You're international, baby. You're traveling the globe.
I am. We never know. We could probably do a podcast when I'm in a different country. We could always try.
We could do that. Maybe we'll do another live one. Maybe we'll revisit live. I've enjoyed it live. I mean, if people can deal with the absolute...
Well, your giggle fit.
The stuff that goes on in between. Yeah. Well, hey, look. I'm going to call it now. Kim's going to hate me after and go, why did you do that? We'll do the next one live as well. How about that? And we'll come back to this format, and we'll cobble a subject together. But I have been Nick APD. You have been... This is where you say who you've been.
Kim Gonick.
And I just want to thank everyone this evening. You've been great. The chat's been great. You've really pushed the conversation on this evening, guys. And we hope to see you on the next one. Kim, any last words, or shall we foxtrot Oscar?
I think we should. I think we should just leave now because Nick's got lots of poking to do, don't you?
Yep. And on that note, I'm going to say good night, guys. I've got to go and poke the world. So
Bye, everyone.
Let's wave awkwardly until the stream ends. See you all later, guys. Bye.